What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So every once in a while, I like to rewatch the old Yu-Gi-Oh anime to truly admire how beautifully tragic that show is. I mean, looking at it now, this show is an absolute disaster, but looking back to my days of when I first watched this show, I thought it was the coolest show imaginable, and really, it's kind of what got me here today. So it's always fun to reminisce, and in the spirit of that, I thought it'd be fun to make a tier list of all of the Season 1 Duelist Kingdom arc characters in the tier maker, because I like making my tier list, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of just reminisce and talk about some of these characters and how either good or bad they might be. Obviously, their dueling skill might play a role, but also just their character all around. I thought it'd be fun to rank, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So over here on Tier Maker, our first victim is going to be the first victim of the show, as a matter of fact, and that is Solomon Moto. I'm gonna give him a solid C tier. Without him, there wouldn't really be a driving plot factor for this show, right? He got his soul taken, and that was pretty much the end of it. Without him, Yu-Gi-Oh may not be what it is, but I think putting him at a solid C tier is perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and start with Mr. Yami Yugi himself. I think I'm gonna give him a solid A tier. You know, he's the icon of the entire Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, so I feel like he deserves a little bit of respect, and he definitely does have his moments throughout the show. There are some times where you just want to punch him in the face. It's, you know, it's Yu-Gi-Oh, right? That's what you would come to expect with a show like this. Joey is just a mixed bag for me. I might put Joey in the C tier, at least for the Duelist Kingdom saga, just because he's so hard to watch. He's got like his Americanized Brooklyn accent. I mean, I guess it's cool to see him like progress and go from complete scrub to like somewhat decent. I still think it's a plot hole seeing someone like as newbie as him go all the way to the finals of like what's supposed to be touted as the biggest tournament of all time by the show's standards. So I don't know. Joey's just such like a weird character. I really think he has an acquired taste, but for me, I never really was too fond of him. Actually, in the later seasons, I think I started to admire him a little bit more. At the very least, he is like, you know, a really good friend. So, I mean, but C tier is where I'm going to put him. Teia's going to go into a solid D tier, though. I really don't like Teia. If she did not exist in the show, it would not change how the show would appeal to anyone, at least in my opinion. Teia has 2 duels, as a matter of fact. She beats Joey in like the 2nd or 3rd episode, where you don't get to actually see it, but she does win. And then she goes and like confronts Mai towards the end before they go into the semifinals at Pegasus's castle, because after Yugi's just completely destroyed after losing to Kaiba, she's trying to like up his spirits, and that was really noble of her. Honestly, if she didn't do that, she'd probably be F tier in my eyes, but it's Teia. There's really not much else to say. All right, now we're gonna move on to Seto Kaiba, and the Seto means S tier 100%, because Kaiba is probably one of the best characters throughout the entire show. I mean, he just is he's just one of the reasons why this show was so great for me. He does things like throw Yu-Gi-Oh cards into the hammer of pistols of like Pegasus's goons that are trying to kill him. He goes and like jumps out windows and just does all these badass things. Even in the very first episode, the way that episode ends when he's just saying, "Draw your last pathetic card so I can end this, Yugi." Like, that whole scene is one of the most hype Yu-Gi-Oh scenes imaginable, and it's all thanks to him. I think like Kaiba definitely is a cut above the rest. I guess we can go to Mokuba, since that's related to Kaiba. Conversely, on the other side of the spectrum, Mokuba is a solid F. Mokuba just whines about literally everything, and again, similar to how Grandpa Moto is like a compelling factor for Yugi for going to Duelist Kingdom, it's like Mokuba is the same reason for Kaiba. And so these characters are important, but like without them, there wouldn't be the story. But I just really hate Mokuba. Like, even later on, Mokuba does not get any better in my eyes. He might even get more annoying because he thinks he has power and authority because he's Seto Kaiba's brother, but everyone just keeps pushing him around because that's the type of character that he is. Maximilian Pegasus, solid A tier character. Pegasus is a really great villain. I mean, he's the creator of the game. We see both Yugi and Kaiba play against him. Kaiba actually loses to him, which is huge, and that kind of just drives Yugi even more to actually defeat Pegasus in the end. Pegasus is able to see everything with the Millennium Eye, and then we have the whole flip-flopping back and forth between Atem and Yugi to stop Pegasus from being able to read the cards in their final match. And then the power of friendship somehow deters him as well. That was like completely out of there. But regardless, I mean, Pegasus is just a wonderful character. The fact that he is just so over the top, he's not like as badass as Kaiba or anything like that, but he still is just a great character in the way that he's just portrayed, and I really did admire him, especially back in my younger days. Bandit Keith, man, talk about an American archetype. Bandit Keith just pretty much embodies everything you could imagine about the American stereotype. I mean, he's loud, he's obnoxious, he picks on everyone who's beneath him because he thinks he's better than them, and he even has a gun. And with someone who has a red, white, and blue bandana, that really shouldn't surprise you. Kind of funny to see him like actually threatening Pegasus and just getting completely ejected off the island. And in the 4Kids version, he doesn't die, he just, you know, is in excruciating pain after getting flown off of like a 40-story drop into the ocean. Hell of a character for the few episodes that he's actually in, but solid C tier, I would say. Bones is next. Bones is F tier. Like, fuck Bones, dude. Bones is a little bitch. The only, like, reason Bones exists is because, like, Bandit Keith is just piloting him the entire way on, like, how to beat Joey. This is one of those characters that, to me, does absolutely nothing to the show. He reminds me of those, like, emo kids in high school where they would just go and, like, smoke behind the gym, like, when they had the free time to do so. He even has, like, the laugh like them, like, hehehehe. Bones, solid F tier. Fuck Bones. Duke Devlin. Duke Devlin for me is actually a B tier. This was after technically the Duelist Kingdom arc, but it's still part of season 1. I love Dungeon Dice Monsters. I really wanted Dungeon Dice Monsters to be a fully fledged game. I even still have some of the Japanese dice sitting around somewhere. I'd have to go dig them up. In terms of his overall character, it's somewhat interesting, I would say. I think most of the reason why Duke Devlin's up here for me is solely because of Dungeon Dice Monsters and not necessarily Duke Devlin himself. It is what it is. It's my tier list, so I can do whatever I want. But if it wasn't for the fact he created such a cool game, he'd probably be like D tier at best. Then we have this abomination. What do we even call this guy? Like fake Kaiba, ghost Kaiba? He's like a D tier for me. This guy is like fucking creepy. That whole story where he like shapeshifts and morphs into like fake Kaiba and turns into this like Kaiba wannabe. I don't even understand like what that whole thing was about. I thought it was pretty funny though that Kaiba goes off and like hacks into the Duelist network mainframe to like rig it so that Yugi doesn't lose. Because, you know, this is supposed to be after Kaiba's supposedly dead and, you know, they're trying to take out Yugi as well. This guy is just, he's weird, D tier. My Valentine can go as a C tier for me. She's interesting. Again, another cheater of the show, but honestly, I'm pretty sure every character on the show cheats in Duelist Kingdom, so like I can't really hold that against her specifically. She does the whole thing where she like sprays her cards with perfume and can just know what the cards are by smelling it. That's like a little bit sexist. I will say what's interesting about Mai is that she's actually a very prominent female character in the show. Obviously, Teia's with like Yugi and them the whole time, but like I don't consider her a prominent role. Like Mai is a much stronger player. She's actually touted as like one of the best players. That's why she got invited to the tournament in the first place. She's fairly okay. I mean, she has some duels with both Yugi and Joey, which is nice. And I think she's overall an okay character. I think she gets a little bit better when we get towards like Battle City, and then she completely goes off the deep end in like Waking the Dragons, but she's okay. That's why I kind of have her and like Joey together. They're fine. Meiko Tsunami, I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for. He's like, out of all of like the side characters that like don't matter, he's like the one that doesn't piss me off. He has the whole story of, you know, he wants to like avenge his dead father who like died going out to fish, and this massive maelstrom comes and like takes him out. That's very, you know, noble and honorable of him. And again, there's complete bullshit that transpires in the game that he plays with Yugi, with like all the water creatures not being able to be attacked and all this nonsense. When you look at him compared to like everyone else, Meiko's like kind of chill. He's not like overly annoying. I think he's got a pretty solid character, but he's not like that great. So again, C tier. Okay, now this is gonna be one of my favorite characters. Some people might heavily disagree with this, but Panic has got to be one of the coolest characters in the Duelist Kingdom arc. First of all, Panic is like 12 fucking feet tall, and he has the star chip gauntlet that can hold like 100 star chips on one hand, and he has 2 of them. And his built-in stadium has flamethrowers that can kill the opponents if they lose to him. He turns out to be a giant pussy by the end of it, but the way they portray this character, he has this very robust vocabulary and just seems to be this very intimidating force, but the whole dynamic between him and the Pharaoh I thought was really, really cool. He even got like his own like little theme song, and also in the Panic episode, there is one of the most horrifically bullshit Yu-Gi-Oh moments of all time with Gaia the Dragon Champion, Catapult Turtle, Swords of Revealing Light, Chaos Shield, and the Castle of Dark Illusions crushing all of Panic's monsters, and he like loses because of it. Like, that was one of the most like what the fuck Yu-Gi-Oh moments ever, and honestly I think that kind of is exemplary of how Yu-Gi-Oh is today. So Panic, solid B tier, not even close. Okay, so the Paradox Brothers, this is going to be a controversial one. I'm actually going to put them at B tier. A majority of the people hate how utterly annoying the Paradox Brothers are. I absolutely loved it. The Paradox Brothers were some of the most fun episodes of the Duelist Kingdom arc. The fact that everything they say has to like rhyme with the other person, and then the whole puzzle and conundrum of like how to get out of the tunnels after they went through the whole like Bones and Bandit Keith bullshit. Even the whole labyrinth wall dynamic when it came to Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, no one plays Yu-Gi-Oh! Like this, but I remember as a kid, I had like little pieces of graph paper, and I actually tried to emulate the way that the Paradox Brothers played because I thought it was a cool idea having the monsters like traverse through the maze and different things like that. And plus the Gate Guardian, you know, that's just classic. So Paradox Brothers, easy B tier. So now we have Rex Raptor, and just as he likes dinosaurs, he's getting a fat D tier. I think it's funny how these characters have to have their names represent what deck they're playing. You know, Rex Raptor, they're both dinosaur names. Ooh, Mako Tsunami, it's water. Rex Raptor is just such a lackluster character. He's a character that doesn't really add anything to the show other than the fact he gives Joey the Red Eyes Black Dragon, which becomes his most iconic monster from then on out, and like that's it. Like, that's the only contribution Rex really has to the show. Rex Raptor, D tier, not much else to say. Weevil Underwood, this guy is shady as fuck. This is like the guy who's like the stereotypical like anime like I hate Weevil. I absolutely hate Weevil. The only reason I have Weevil not as an F is because Weevil's actually not incompetent when it comes to playing the game. He actually has like strategy, but he's like such a scumbag. Like, he's the person you never want to play at locals because you know they're just going to be absolutely annoying to play against. The fact that he always has to like weasel his way out of all these situations, even though he thinks he's like this clever mastermind, atrocious character. Later on, he has one of the most, and personally my favorite, iconic anime Yu-Gi-Oh scenes of all time. So that's another reason why I'm not giving him an F, but yeah, Weevil, D tier, not even close. I actually love Bakura. Bakura is going to be an A tier for me because there are so many cool things about Bakura. I mean, the whole episode where like he makes the characters like become their own cards and they're trying not to die and they go to the graveyard and they're trying to like resurrect one another. Innocent Bakura is like the change of heart and like trying to help and all that, but the Spirit of the Ring Bakura is so cool. And like when you get to like Dawn of the Duel at the end of this whole arc, I absolutely love like Bakura's character there. It's a little bit bland, but I mean, he's still just a really cool villain later on. There's also the part where he uses like his shadow magic to be able to like manifest a real life man-eater bug to take out Pegasus's goons when he's like infiltrating the castle. He's just like such a cool character. I feel like he's really up there with the best in my eyes. A tier for sure. But that's gonna get us to our last one, and that is Rebecca. Remember, Rebecca is actually after Duelist Kingdom when you're kind of going through like the filler episodes. I think Rebecca's a solid B. When it comes to Rebecca, she actually knows how to play the game. She actually has like very synergistic cards like Witch of the Black Forest, trying to pump up a Shadow Ghoul. Like, she's actually good at the game, at least by like the standards of how these players are. And I think I really appreciate that. Again, she's not like a very like super prominent character. She comes back in like Grand Championship and I think Waking the Dragons as well for like minor roles, but she's kind of annoying in Duelist Kingdom. But I think just because of the fact that she's like actually decent at the game, I want to give her like a slightly higher rating just for that. So I think B tier is pretty solid. So guys, that's gonna wrap it up for my Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 1 Duelist Kingdom tier list. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and if you have any disagreements, which I'm sure you do, be sure to let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, and if you found this video entertaining, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.